Good evening, everyone. My name is Rudy Page, and great to be back on our usual A Chapter from My Life and Book series. And I'm really pleased on this occasion. We've got Gary Dixon, the founder and the inspiration behind the TTM Collective Orchestra project. Gary, how are you doing?
Rudy, I'm truly feeling blessed and honored to be here, to be interviewed by yourself via the Zoom connection. Absolutely blessed and privileged. So thank you for inviting me on. Thank you, sir.
No problem. That's been a way of life for the last couple of years.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Gary, tell us a bit about yourself, in terms of family background, where you grew up.
Family background. Grew up in East London. Father and mother from a musical background. Funny enough, my mum used to sing back in Jamaica in the great concert halls, etc. And my dad was a trumpet player, still plays today, my dad. And he ended up playing. He ended up playing for the Undivided Roots and Rico Rodriguez, who also supported Bob Marley on their Babylon by Bus tour in the late 70s. And I was very privileged to actually get down to Island Studios because one day in my teens, I woke up about to go to school, and my dad said he's going down to the airport to pick up the Wailers. And I went, "What? Pick up the Wailers?" I went, "Hang on, I'm coming." So I bunked off school, jumped in his van, yellow transit van that he used to use to transport his band around. Went down to Heathrow Airport, and there's everyone, the I3s, Bob Marley, the musicians, and so privileged, as a teenager to meet these guys, and blessed, because when my brother came up in 75, my brother Paul, we lost him last year, he actually introduced me to the Wailers, and he brought up the 7-inch singles and started playing them. I was thinking, this band seems interesting, and I've been a big fan since, big fan of the Wailers and Marley, yeah.
Oh, of course.
So musical background, and I think, later on, kind of in the later 70s, joined a band called Revelation,
yes,
which was a lovers rock band at the time. And, we went on to record our first track with You Boy, which went straight into the charts, went into #1. And, it's been music on and off since, all my life.
Yeah.
Just music. It's my first passion, my first love, and I've just been blessed to have had some good experiences. Yeah.
Nice. So what inspired the TTM Collective Orchestra project in the first place? What was,
That's a good question, because around about, I can't remember when it was, maybe about the 90s, the mid-90s, I had this vision or this passion to put together a super unit of top musicians, because in my time, I've been very blessed to work with some real good musicians across the board. And one point in time, I was putting together like a brass section, string section, and it didn't happen. It just, for whatever reasons, maybe it was just beyond me. Some of the guys were like top sessionists because it's quite hard to hold them down.
Yeah.
But then I was in church one day, church I used to go to in Walthamstow, and I was asked to actually read the announcements in church. So when I went up to read the announcements, something came over me to say, start singing Fall in Love with Jesus. And I'm not a singer, I've got a terrible voice. But I started singing this song, and all of a sudden the choir fell in, the musicians, the congregation, something happened. The Spirit of the Lord came down, and the place was just, it was just like, God had taken over. Put it that way, God had taken over. Yeah. When I then sat down in my seat afterwards, I was thinking to myself, Lord, what was that all about? And I clearly got a message, Gary, you need to get back into using your talents.
Yeah.
What have you been doing all these years?
Yeah.
And that's when I made a connection with Revelation ex-member Stuart Green. He had got a studio up in Wembley. Walked into the studio one day. I hadn't seen him for years, and I said, Stuart, I want to try our thing. And that was it. I just want to try our thing. Had some ideas, and 30 songs later, we were able to put the project together. 2017, we released the EP, which had 6 tracks on. And then 2019/2020, we released the Inspirational Love Songs album of 18 masterpiece tracks. So blessed. So that's how that came together. I just had a vision of having top singers, musicians, brass section. You know, my dad's a trumpet player.
Yeah.
I play drums and percussion, you know. So I've always loved brass and strings, etc. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that was it. The rest is history. Yeah.
Actually, looking slightly back, and well done, by the way, to put that collective together. So when you had to overcome the challenges from the first group of musicians that you wanted to put together, so what was the lesson that you learned the second big time around, where you actually, obviously you got something right, so you learned something? So I'd be interested to know when it comes to collaboration.
I think the lesson was I didn't have a strategy, I didn't have a game plan.
Right.
I didn't have an agent, because, you know, I was looking for the unit to be more of a working unit, you know, doing top venues, backing top artists, you know, but I didn't really have everything in place. But this time round, I had started to approach some singers, approach some musicians, and song by song, I was so blessed that everyone that I approached one by one, more or less said yes. You know, I don't think I even got turned down. And if I did get turned down by somebody better came along to take that spot. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just been a blessing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's very interesting. So obviously you've got the collective together. So how was the projects received, both within the industry and most importantly by the public?
Very interesting. It was hard, first and foremost, to start to promote it, because promotion's another ballpark, you know, another game. But as I got it out to certain DJs, and the collective started to support it, do you know what I mean? They started to kind of put it out to their connections, and we started to do the sort of social media. The reception, it just started to be welcomed. You know, people were putting it into charts, and you know, I then got after our launch in February of 2020, the very next month, March, I flew over to the South Florida for a 2-week vacation. That's when I got locked down in South Florida for 14 months.
Really?
But in that lockdown, I was able to promote the album.
So it was a blessing in disguise then.
Absolutely, yeah. Whilst I was stranded, I landed. You know what I mean? But it was a blessing, yeah. Absolutely a blessing, yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. So, so you use the term Gospel Lovers Rock Records, GLR. So why that name in particular?
I've always had a love for Lovers Rock, coming from Revelation and all the Lovers Rock era that kicked in the mid-70s, late 70s, early 80s. I was there in the middle of that, you know, when it's all been birthed, etc. So I've always had a passion for Lovers Rock, and always had an ear for producing Lovers Rock. So I thought, if I'm going to do something, becoming a born-again Christian, as I did, you know, at the turn of the century and etc., I thought, you know what, I want to keep the Lovers Rock thing alive, but I want to turn it into gospel Lovers Rock. And that's where the GLR, Gospel Lovers Rock, just kind of was a download, you know what I mean? Looking for a name, looking for a label, and to brand it as Gospel Lovers Rock. Yeah, that's where that came about. Yeah,
that's interesting, because as you know, Fresh FM Radio London, we have played the have played the album, and of course it's going to feature as part of our Jamaica 60 celebrations, starting from Sunday the 31st of July, running into the 1st of August, and then the 17 days of activities, you know, really going from emancipation through the independence celebrations right up to the 17th of August, which of course is Marcus Garvey's birthday. So the special program, the 12 songs that you've picked will be featured. We'll be doing a special feature. So actually, before we go on, I'm very interested in this term, Gospel Lovers Rock. Now it sounds quite interesting as a genre. When you think of all the content from the Lovers Rock era, our generation's 40 years that we kind of really remember as Lovers Rock. I mean, what are your thoughts then of how that kind of music that our generation really remember being translated into another genre, into this wider gospel world, and then what are the international or what is the international potential for this genre?
Deep down, I think it's huge. And what I realized, you know, at the turn of the century, etc., a lot of lovers rock artists were turning to Christ, were becoming born again Christians. And as a result, they were doing a bit like what some of the Jamaicans were doing. They were doing just gospel reggae.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, hang on a second, because we've got our generation of singers, artists, musicians evolving here and coming from the lovers rock, which is a British thing, why not have our own gospel lovers rock, you know? And yeah, like you're saying, I see it as a bigger vision later, you know, becoming possibly a genre in its own right, as people become more and more closer to Christ, and they want to keep their roots, but they still want to, you know, worship Christ at the same time and do it in that gospel arena, but being lovers rock. So it was interesting question you've asked there. Yeah,
I think there's great potential, and we would certainly support that, because the reason being, last year's International Reggae Month Jamaica, one of our colleagues, you may have heard of him, Beresford Dawkins, and he's big in gospel up in the Midlands. And we had a dialogue, and as you know, the importance of reggae and lovers rock in terms of mental well-being, spiritual well-being, etc., the importance. But he was somebody, or is somebody, who's in the church, and of course he was still a reggae lover. So the theme of our dialogue was, why should the devil have all the good music? And so there's something in terms of what you're saying in terms of gospel lovers rock, because it's something produced here in the UK. It reflects the culture and the influences, particularly those of us of the second generation, who in a sense birthed. If we weren't the performers, then we were the listener, you know, we were the going to the sound systems, going to the dances, which of course each feeds off the other. So I think potentially it's something that you should look at really seriously, and I know we would definitely be behind you if you were to you know, think about that as a serious prospect.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I'd love to branch out and you know, work with other artists as well, and there's so many different ideas and stuff that are actually sitting there on the shelf. You know, I'm sitting on songs in the studio right now that are as equally as good as the tracks on the album, but they obviously just need to be finished off. And I truly believe we've got a lot of talent, even just in the UK alone, that have come from the sort of lovers rock background. And you know, there's thoughts of even putting together a lovers rock, gospel lovers rock show, you know, with all of these artists, and you know, with the orchestra, and just making it a prestigious event. Do you know what I mean? Maybe at the Royal Albert Hall. Who knows? Do you know what I mean?
I think it's something you should really think about, because when you look across the industry, you know, there would be, I'm sure there's got to be some people that you could collaborate with, so that we get that cross-sector collaboration. And the reason being why I'm speaking like this, because obviously next year is Windrush 75. And you know, and so it's going to be a significant year for the Caribbean community of all generations, and we've got there's at least 4 generations of Caribbean people now, in terms of our parents' generation and children and grandchildren. So I think it's definitely something to consider for the beginning of the year, to open up the year, gospel lovers rock, because it really does represent an important part of the culture. So and I can see a few members there. So in terms of the collective now, how do you keep in touch? What do you do, and you know, what's the expectations?
We keep in touch via social media. We've got our own little WhatsApp group, you know, so if there's anything happening, we drop it in there. I've been quite proactive in helping other artists as well. We've got an artist on the call here, Adina Benjamin. She released a track just a couple of weeks ago in the Stevie J chart, which I introduced her to Stevie J, and that today went to #1.
Really? So
#1 Stevie J. So who knows? You know, yeah, it's just been a blessing to help Adina get that to #1. I think it's her first release track, and yeah, went to #1 today. So I'm always got my ear to the ground, always looking for artists. I'm always thinking about different productions, different songs that we could do. And yeah, live is my first love as well. I love coming live. From around about 2017, we put on about 4 or 5 showcases, and each and every one of them have been at great venues. You know, the O2 in Greenwich, we did the O2 Islington, we did the Ark Church on February of 2020. That was a release. This is the picture of the Ark Church, by the way, that you're seeing, the release of the album. We did another venue in Camden, prior to that, another venue in East London, you know, so it's been nice coming live. But the beautiful thing is, when you're in the studio recording the stuff, and then you go to do it live, and you hear it sounding sometimes even better live than it does in the studio. It's just an amazing feeling, you know, and then to see the audience and the crowd's reaction when we strike up the songs, you know, just amazing, just absolutely amazing.
Now, I love live music. It's just amazing just to watch the skill and artistry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just before we go on, do you think we should hear from Adina, you know, a few words?
Yeah, she wants to, open up and say how she feels today. Yeah, nice.
Adina, it'd be great to hear from you. And just tell us about this guy, Gary Dixon, you know, that we're having this dialogue with.
Hopefully she can come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Hi, hello.
Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
We're good. Congratulations, Adina.
Congratulations.
Getting to #1.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I can not thank Gary enough for the support that he's given. Such an inspiration, both in the gospel and the lovers rock. Really excited, business-wise, to work with him, and just as a person, he's amazing. So yeah. Great.
Well, you know, there's definitely one fan of yours, Gary.
Yeah, I don't think it's sunk in yet today, because I think Adina was out working at the time when it dropped.
Okay.
And she's like, I don't think it's sunk in yet, but well done.
Yeah, no, very well done, because there's lots of good music in that chart.
Absolutely. Yeah. To top that chart is no, you know, no messing about there.
And it's the public's choice as well, isn't it? That's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Great.
Well done, Adina.
Well done, Adina. So, Adina, before we move back to Gary, so what's on your cards next? You know, what you're doing at the moment? What's the ambition as well?
So at the moment, I think for me, it's just recording in the studio, because I have loads of songs that I'm ready to release. So it's just kind of getting them fine-tuned, writing them out, recording them in the studio, and then I've got a couple lines up to release in the new year, hopefully working on an EP in the new year.
Excellent. Well, we look certainly on Fresh FM Radio
My
London.
signal is quite bad. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. No problem. So you certainly get full support from Fresh FM Radio London. So great, and well done. Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well done,
No
Adina.
problem.
Fantastic.
No problem.
So happy. Yeah.
So Gary, give us your thoughts then in terms of the future of the collective. Where do you go next? I know you mentioned about the Albert Hall, but you know, obviously you've got to have a big strategic vision that again translates into economic value at the end of the day. So what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts, to be honest, Rudy, is I truly believe, as much as we've had like 6 number ones from the album, we've had a number 2 and a number 3, and got another track, Jesus Will, by Marilyn Abraham, that's just gone into Stevie J's chart. I truly believe we haven't even started yet with this project. I believe that the project is so good that if it's got into the right hands, right media, right sort of the radio stations, your Radio Ones, etc. I honestly see some of these songs crossing over. I mean, it's always been most artists' dream, not just to have a hit locally or in an independent chart, but to cross over.
Yeah.
And I truly believe with what we've done here, if this gets into the right hands and somebody picks it up, I truly believe we're going to have some crossover number ones. And I think from then, that will give us a demand to actually go out and do bigger arenas, bigger venues, and be able to support other artists coming into the industry as well, other up and coming artists.
So in a sense, which is quite interesting in terms of these days, it sounds as though you're also developing a pipeline of artists as well.
That is the plan. When you look back at institutions like Motown, that's where they started. The moment the Michael Jacksons and Jackson 5 came in, and the Smokies, and all that just helped to build that stable. And who knows, what we're doing here, we might be setting the foundations for a stable for artists to come in and be able to just promote them, get them to cross over, mainstream.
And then I think the other important thing would be how open are the members of the collective to support and mentor young people. Because one of the challenges in our communities, whichever area of culture, commerce, education, is how do we ensure there's that cultural continuity, and it can only happen if those who have made it to a certain level are willing to mentor that next generation, because that 10-year-old, that 12-year-old who wants to do something in life but they don't know what, but yet music is such a powerful force. It contributes to their attitude to life and their aspirations and attainment, in whatever else they're supposed to do.
You've made a good point there, because when I look across the collective, all of the musicians are highly qualified musicians. They teach, they mentor. Some of the vocalists, I'll just name a few. Lurine Cato, top vocal coach in the UK, MBA, etc. Marilyn Abraham, top coach, mentored by Lurine. Kamara Fearon, one of the younger members, she's a mentor. Kamara, she plays about 6 or 7 instruments, Natalie Phillips, all these people coach, they teach people how to sing, Sandy McCullough, all of these, Millicent Stevenson on saxophone, she's a top sax coach, do you know what I mean? And these are all people that have mentorship skills. They have academies, young academies where they're teaching people. So we've got a foundation right there straight away across the board.
Maybe something to look at for next year as part of Windrush 75 would be, even if it's a week, well, Windrush month, as you know, is June, but a week of the individual members of the collective, setting out who they are, what they do within TTM, but also what they do in the wider world, because sometimes it's not always recognized. Because as you know, the music industry, particularly when you say reggae, as being particularly known as not collaborative within the industry, and certainly not as it relates to the public and the generations coming up. And so I think there is potential in terms of what you're saying, and because we need more young people to be given the opportunity and access to playing music, understanding it, sitting with people who already have the great expertise.
You made a point there, because I believe one of the things that got me going as a youth coming through the industry was just getting into the studios and seeing what was going on. just picking up from top engineers and producers and musicians for how they got the sounds and the techniques that they were using. And I do believe it's a difficult situation to get in. You can't just walk into any studio. You know, you've got to either know somebody in there or be just accompanying them to say, look, I'll be your water runner, or, you know, you want to get some snacks, I'll be, you know, your runner, whatever. But just to get in that environment to start to learn, you know, I do believe there's a gap there for youngsters coming through to be able to just experience that.
Yeah. So how important has the whole digital world been to you, and how are you utilizing that now for what you're doing?
Right, that's a good point. I'm going to be really transparent and honest with you. When the digital thing kicked in back in whenever it was, I can't remember what year it was. You know, and being a drummer, the digital drums took over. I actually felt I was redundant for a while. You know, I wasn't getting a phone call to say, come and play the drums on this track, or, you know, come and do this session. So I felt redundant. I didn't like the digital sound when it kicked in. It was too mechanical for me, a bit too, you know what I mean? And I actually dressed away from the industry. I actually just took a step back for many, many years. But then what I found was people then going back to more authentic sounds.
Of course.
They want a live drum set. They don't want a synthesized bass. They want a brass section. Do you know what I mean? And the moment that started to happen, I was thinking, maybe there is a life with real music again. You know? So I was happy. And most of what you hear on the in that track, there's nothing sequenced. There's nothing programmed. It's all been live played. Every instrument, every note has been played live. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really, really blessed to have had good musicians around me. And again, I've got to pay kudos to Stuart Green, because without him, my co-producer, you know, the album wouldn't be anywhere near the quality that he helped to make it to be that final product. You know what I mean?
Okay, great speaking to you. So, Gary, just before we go, can you tell everybody, you know, where they can get the record, your website, social media? How do they connect to you if they're interested in anything that you said?
Good point. So everything's on all the platforms. The Inspirational Love Songs masterpiece on all platforms. We have a website for GLR Records, which is www.glrrecords.net. glrrecords.net. I'll go back over to the actual album so they can see what the album cover looks like. And I'm on social media on Facebook as Gary Revelation Dixon. You see, I've retained the Revelation part of the previous history. On most other platforms, on Instagram, I am Gary Dixon on IG, and just Gary Dixon on most of the other platforms. But available on wherever people purchase, whether it's on Amazon, they stream it, Spotify, etc. All they need to punch in is Inspirational Love Songs masterpiece by the TTM Collective Orchestra, and they can either download the album or they can download the individual tracks. You know,
Excellent. Right. So just before we go, then, Gary, just to let everybody know, Fresh FM Radio London, from Sunday the 31st of July, ahead of Jamaica's 60 celebrations, there will be a special 12-song program by one of our presenters, Kay Smarty, on the Sunday morning after Elder Jean Knight's inspirational encouragement message. It goes straight into Gary's album, and that'll be running for a few weeks. So well done on that, Gary. You're the first one to get that kind of a special program, to have 12 of your songs put together as one show. So that's really well done.
Bless you. Thank you, Rudy.
Keep up the good work.
It was a hard choice when you said pick 12 from the 18, because 18 tracks on the album, you know, for me, I love every track. You know, I'm just every time I hear it on the radio being played, I'm like, oh, that was me. I'm involved in that. I have to kind of pinch myself, you know. It's been a blessing, and you know, to all the artists, Merila, Toyin, Lurine, David, Kamara, Kevin German, Bex Grant, Stuart Green, Sandy, McCalla, Natalie Phillips, Millicent Stevenson, just everyone that's been involved on the project. We've got Natalie here that's on the call. She helped out at the event that we did at the Ark Church. It's been a big team effort. I think at one point in time, we had anything between maybe 35 to 50 people behind the scenes. It's a big production, you know. But loved it. Loved every moment of it.
Well done, because that's a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication.
It is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it's been a blessing. And when I look back now, I wouldn't change any of it, you know. And I'm just looking forward to the future now, to take it to the Albert Hall. That is my dream, to get to a venue like the Albert Hall with hit songs behind us. And, you know, it's a sellout because people just want to be there to bask in that glory of the wonderful sounds of both the musicians and the singers. Yeah.
Right. All right. Thank you very much.
That's the vision. Yeah.
And you take very good care, and we look forward to connecting again soon.
Thanks, Rudy, and all that's fresh. And thank you guys for coming on the call today. Really appreciate that. And bless you guys. I'm honored and blessed. Thank you again, Rudy. Take care. Right. God bless.
Good night. Bye.
Good night. Take care. Thanks, everyone, for coming on. God bless.